Good day. I want to talk to you today about early adulthood. So, kind of flying through this thing, and I'm doing a lot of skipping around intentionally because these are just supplemental things to your text readings. So, let's jump to early adulthood. This is about where most of you are. Um, and this will be brief, it won't be a long, drawn out lecture. There are a lot of things to consider here. You've completed your journey through early childhood, middle childhood, adolescence, and there are new guidelines related to the age ranges of adolescence. I think I even pointed out that there's even literature out there that says the new age of adolescence is from 11 to 29. If you believe that, that's your business. I find it a little bit troublesome, but nonetheless, you make up your own mind. I'm not here to make your mind up for you. So I want to lead you down the traditional path. We're going to treat this as early adulthood, beginning at the end of adolescence in the traditional sense, which means you stop being a teenager when you turn 20. And many things happen there. You probably started college, some of you, when you were 18. That's kind of the given. The exception to that rule is back in the day when the military drafted young men out of high school. So by the time you're 18, most likely you were in one of the branches of service, either by choice or by conscription. So 18 years of age is a marking point. You're no longer considered a child when you are in the military. You do a lot of growing up very quickly out of necessity. So you have that marker, if you want to call it that. Matter of fact, let's call it that, markers of becoming an adult. And that's just one of them. That one doesn't apply now because we don't have the draft anymore. We don't have involuntary conscription. In other words, if you don't want to join the military, you don't have to. So 18 is not the thing that it used to be. 16 is more important because you get a driver's license. So the age of 18, though, most people are finishing or have finished high school. And now they move out into the world. They're either going to go into a job or they're going to go to college. So one of the first markers for early adulthood, becoming an adult, that is your job. Some are full-time, some are part-time, more or less permanent. We have this job market that's rather odd. You have people that go from job to job to job. A good example, I didn't do it intentionally. I've done a little bit of everything, I think, except commit murder. I've done all kind of stuff and didn't mean to do it. It just, my life played out that way. But job, yes, I had a job right before I got out of high school and when I graduated high school. And then the military tapped me on the back and said, come with me. So more or less permanent full-time or part-time job. That's a marker. You again refer to schooling. That's another marker. Finishing high school, finishing college, finishing graduate school, finishing a professional school of some sort, finishing a trade school. Not many of those around anymore. Used to be a lot of them back in the day. Not so much now. But schooling, that's a marker. Finances, another marker. Economic independence. This takes a while. Some people never get there. With the credit situation in the United States and with our attitude, I want it and I want it yesterday. Credit is a big deal here. And there are people in horrible credit debt. You've heard the stories. Be careful. That's a marker. Your finances. Responsibility. There's this attitude of wanting to become independent by taking control of yourself, accepting responsibility for consequences of behavior. There's a big problem with that. I won't go into that, but you look around you, look at people you know, how they deal with consequences, how they deal with responsibility. Do they play the blame game, etc.? Two more markers: emotions. There's this thing called emotional intelligence. Part of that has to do with developing control over your emotions. Do I control my emotions, or do they control me? We all know people from both sides of that fence. Very emotional people, people that get angry easily, people that get upset easily, people that are made happy easily, so on and so forth. And then finally, cultural variables. This is a marker, but not in the sense of these first few, these first five that I gave you. This means you have to take into consideration the cultural variables. If you take my cross-cultural psychology class, you will see that there's a big discussion about views, about perceptions, about what different cultures think about these things I've just named off, and many more. So a consideration concerning what do the markers say? Big deal, a big deal when becoming an adult. That's probably one of the most acceptable explanations that I've seen. There are rites of passage. That's a kind of an older view of cultural things related to becoming an adult. A rite of passage would be starting school. Another rite of passage would be getting your driver's license. 16, in other words. Another rite of passage, graduating from high school. And then the last biggie, back in certain parts of the United States, and this was kind of a regional thing, turning 18, because in some states, once you turned 18, you could buy alcohol, beer, not liquor. In North Carolina, once you turned 18, that was a rite of passage. Then you went and bought all your younger buddies beer and you were a hero. Not a smart thing to do. So 16 years of age and then 18. With this drinking age difference now, 18 is gone by the wayside. So 16 is the last biggie. And then these others are lessers. Graduating from college, that's a rite of passage, but that doesn't apply to everybody. But everybody turns 16, right? And most everybody gets their license by the time they're 16. I don't know of any states where that doesn't occur at that age. So these are markers of becoming an adult. Rites of passage in some cultures and not so much in others. And then I want to give you a little science about the theoretical view of some of this. This is not markers per se. This is a stage view, a cognitive stage view of early adulthood, because that's what we're talking about. And this particular view is from Piaget, Jean Piaget. You've heard his name by now, and what he has to say about early adulthood and how you think. What are you capable of cognitively? Now, I'll finish this and we'll be done for the day. Piaget's views. Adolescents and adults think the same way qualitatively. What in the world does that mean? It means that because you're 16 doesn't mean that you can't think like a 22-year-old. Now, we're not talking about maturity here. What we're doing is we're talking about qualitative. Qualitative equates to emotions. My dissertation was a qualitative dissertation with a little bit of quantitative mixed in. So adolescents and early adults think the same way. They think qualitatively. They think in terms of nature and of something not necessarily the nature of something and then not necessarily the meaning of it. So what's the nature of this topic we're talking about? I don't really care about the meaning. I just want to know what are we talking about here? It's a qualitative thing. But as you enter further into early adulthood, your thinking begins to change a bit. And what happens here is if you want to apply the word maturity, that's okay, but it doesn't always apply. So as I advance through early adulthood, then my thinking changes to quantitative. And the definition of quantitative in this case would apply to the consequences of behaviors, the potential of things, the meaning of things. That's a quantitative look at things, a measured look at things. So I know if I speed, I can get a speeding ticket. I know if I'm successful in my job, I get a pay raise. Those kind of things. What is my potential? What's the potential of anything? And what is the meaning of it? How does it apply from a life standpoint? The next thing he points out is called realistic and pragmatic. In other words, practical thinking. That's what pragmatic means. You hear it all the time. Some people actually don't know what it means. That's cool. So I enter the world of work and I begin to understand the constraints of reality. So I'm switching from acquiring knowledge to the application of knowledge, because by this time I'm done with college, unless I'm going to grad school. So I'm really more concerned with the realism of things. How does reality affect me in terms of what I'm allowed to do? Can I advance in this chosen career, etc.? That's an example. So switching from acquiring knowledge, i.e. school in some cases, to application of knowledge. Now there's another training ground. It's called experience. So I'm going to acquire experience, and then I'm going to apply that experience to a given situation. And then lastly, reflective and realistic thinking. An adolescent view of the world is a polarity perspective. It's a right, wrong, we, they, good, bad kind of perspective, a black and white perspective. An adult doesn't think in absolution terms. So it's not an absolutist view. You become aware of diversity in thinking. Why? Because you're out there in the world. You're out of school. Now you're rubbing elbows with all kind of folk out there, and depending on your job, could be a lot. So that's kind of a view of early adulthood. When we return soon, I'm going to attack socio-emotional development, and I'll spend more time with that than I have today. All right, take it easy.